First of all, I thank for this wonderful summit, wonderful summit about the wonderful summit of talking about the right to food with regard to the false solutions that the state has been falsely propagating to the since decades and also through the centuries of colonial history. So here I want to share about I will try to because the topic is about demand for food and nutrition. We should understand demand and food and nutrition from a India, a developing country perspective, because we are the largest population, where there will be more demand for food and where there will be more demand for nutrition. So from that perspective, and also I will talk from the perspective of marine fishes, how the how marine fishes has been trapped under this demand of food and nutrition, and how their way of life has been how what transformations has been happened and how they have been marginalized. So starting from, I will also, as the previous speakers noted about the prehistories, noted about the histories of noted about the histories, how it the transformation happened. Let me also touch little histories, and then come little bit as a then highlight the today's context of the United Nations Food Summit. So, starting from the post-independence in 1950s, India got independence in 1950 as a developing country, and since 1950, we started our five-year plan, five-year development, nation's development plan. There was the word called demand of food and nutrition when it comes to the sector of fisheries. However, fisheries was a subsector or a subsection of a larger agriculture. For the larger agriculture, fish and livestock is a subsection of the agriculture sector. So this is how.
Apologies, this is one of the interpreters.
Yeah,
You need to use the mic, and can you please not move around so much because there's a lot of interference with your line.
Okay, okay. Am I right? So the starting from 1950, the Food and Agriculture Organization of UN has recommended India with a large recommended India for for the development of fisheries. They recommended large boats to yield more and more fishes. That is that they drafted a production. They converted the fishing sector, the hunting sector, to a larger production industry. So they said that their recommendations are very clear in those the post-colonial developments, post-independence development of India. Clearly, uh, from the technical cooperation of World Food and Agriculture Organization, it recommended India to adapt large vessels, large active gears, and also large active gears, large mechanized goods with all advanced technologies. They transformed they transformed the traditional boats, and they said the word very clearly that indigenous traditional fishing crafts and gears are not suitable for production based production, or are not suitable for developing the fisheries sector. With this connotation and with these recommendations, India brought in India invested in the India with the financial support of the financial international finance institutions like IMF and World Bank. They have brought many trawlers in. They have introduced trawlers. They have introduced mechanized vessels, alternative to the traditional fishing crafts. But what happened? These trawlers, or whether it is a trawler or the mechanized trawlers, are sufficient for a resource, and that is the shrimp, shrimp or the prawns, which has the value export value in those days. It is called pink revolution in those days. So what happened? Still 1960s in India, shrimp or the prawns were being used as manure for coconut trees. But when the trawlers came into the sea, and when prawns had a international or a export market and export production link, immediately what happened is that manure becomes a food for the entire globe. Indian manure has become a food for the entire globe. And what happened is that the farm-based landlords or the farm-based community, farm-based landlords invested in the fishing sector. Say example, before shrimp has been used as a manure for coconut trees. Coconut coirs had export value. Then when the trawlers came and then there was a market for this shrimp food, immediately what happened is that the coconut farmers invested in the invested in trawlers and mechanized boats. That what the transformation happened. But this food transformation and this export oriented production policies had a great impact on the identity of the capture fisheries, because the non-fisher is now getting venture into the fishing. So obviously the indigenous or the traditional marine fishing communities are totally excluded by this global food global production oriented policy, which has been pushed by the transnational corporations as well as financed by IMF and others into a developing nations. So you can also imagine that if you see the mechanized boats are called mechanized boats. If you see the nets are nylon nets, and they are from the other developed countries. They are sponsored by other development countries. Machines, engines, Korean engines, Japanese engines. So it is like that. Still 1950s to 1990s, before the neoliberal, it is like the active gears for more and more production, and the entire transformation of a subsistence fishing from a traditional community. Now it has been transformed to a fishing production oriented export industry. So seafood, with the core of the seafood values. So what happened is that we can easily understand that the demand of nutrition is not for India, but the demand and the demand of food and nutrition is for the entire globe. Rather, the clear cut impact is that it destroyed the local and feeded the global. Developing countries resources has been destroyed, and it feeded the entire developed countries. For a developed country, western European nations to eat prawns, we have destroyed the entire entire seabed, and the trawling industry has established. Then what happened in 1960s, a neoliberal kid came into the scene of coastal fishery sector. That is the aquaculture, the neoliberal kid. This neoliberal kid, what it did is that it occupied the entire coastal regions. There was traditionally, there was cultured shrimp culture is part of the peasant's life. But what happened in 1992 when when India adopted neoliberal policies, they gave an alternative, and they said that the entire fishing resources has been overexploited, which has been gifted by them through their mechanized trawlers. But the ultimate blame came to the fishers, and they shifted to culture fisheries. So culture fisheries, when it came, culture fisheries, when it has been boosted to the fishers, all the coastal lands has been occupied, has been leased out. It is totally leased out for tenures to the landlords to do fish, to cultivate fish farm, to cultivate shrimp farms, and also crop farming, fish farming. So what happened is that we can understand from 1990s that the shrimp farms are started in the riverbeds. The entire riverbeds has been occupied. All the ecological sensitive areas or the riverbeds has been totally occupied with these farms. And now the farms are not a traditional farms. These farms has been converted to a industry. From feed to harvest, it is totally networked or interlinked with the company or a corporate who's supplying the entire thing. Supply like a seed goes seed for seed, feed, medicine, everything. So for a eater, for a food eater, for a shrimp eater, when the shrimp comes to the plate, he can't understand whether it is a wild shrimp or whether it is a farmed shrimp. For him, the food should be there. But the difference between the wild shrimp and the farmed shrimp is that the nutrient value. So obviously the demand of nutrition or malnutrition, the false solution, it is very clear that this will not be achieved. It cannot be, because a farmed shrimp cannot antibiotic or a genetically modified shrimp cannot give the same nutrition of a wild shrimp. So this is the clear cut example of a false solution that has been pushed by the state. Rather, through this transformation of fisheries, the entire shrimp culture, entire marine capture fishers, who are the traditional fishers, life has been marginalized. Their land has been occupied by culture fisheries, and their entire resources has also been exploited by the deep sea trawlers, shrimp trawlers, and as well as the mechanized offshore trawlers. So this was, it was still 90s and the 90s to 2000. Post tsunami, or now the decade is for the culture fisheries. Now the entire statistics of the world culture, the world aquaculture report, we can easily understand. It is it is it is a thin line stating that all the oceans, whether it is a Pacific Ocean or it is all the oceans, they are saying that there is no fish in the
Jones,
fishes.
Jones,
Hello?
te quedan
Fish.
2 minutos y también, por favor, si
So now
You have
coming to
2 minutes, and please can you use the microphone because the interpreter cannot hear you. Thank you.
So now coming to the, I will complete in 2 minutes. Yeah, thank you so much. So now coming to the arena is that the today's arena of culture fisheries. Culture fisheries is totally dominate. Culture fisheries dominate the fisheries sector. If you see the world reports like World Aquaculture and Fisheries Report, the dominance of the rapid growth of culture fisheries has been dominating the entire fisheries sector. Now the entire shift happened from culture fisheries to capture to culture. Take example, in 1950, the percentage of capture fisheries contributing to the global national GDP of India, it is 78%, and culture fisheries is just 20%. Now it is totally reverse. Now culture fisheries is contributing more than 79%, and capture fisheries contribution is 21%. This is not because of the transfer of the this, rather it one side it is creating a conflict between a non-fisher and a fisher, a peasant, a farmer and a fisher. The changing food policies which has been boosted by the corporations. Food, exactly, food is a commodity. This commodity seafood industry has been marginalizing the capture fisheries, traditional capture fisheries, to the core. Now the false solution was mariculture activities in the marine spaces. The entire marine spaces, exclusive economic zones, and also the territorial waters of the seaward side has also been occupied by mariculture, farming in the sea. This is what the recent United Nations Food Summit is also, all the corporates are pushing for mariculture, and the entire reports, entire statistics of fisheries clearly says that there is no fish in the sea. So we can't, because it cannot be. If it is there, then it is the end of the earth, because 78% of the globe, the entire earth is occupied by seawater. So you can't say that there is no fish in the sea or it has been overexploited. Then it is a huge crisis of climate. So now this mariculture push by these corporates occupying sea space. As I said, first it occupied the boats, it transformed the boats, then it occupied the coastal lands, and now they are occupying the sea space. So this is a clear-cut marginalization and the subjugation and the dispossession of the rights of the traditional marine capture fisheries, and this is going to the extreme. This will go, and this will not. It is a false solution of. It is a clear-cut, evidential false solution when you compare with the fisheries sector. So we as fishers advising the what as I said, people doesn't understand or cannot, the eaters cannot differentiate the food what they eat. Rather, if they cannot differentiate what fish it is or the what shrimp it is, how they can understand the global corporates politics on their plate? So this where the entire globe and the movements of the peasants and the workers movement should join together to stop this corporatization of the food systems. Thank you, one and all. Thank you so much.